Welcome to the regular meeting of the Lawndale City Council. Due to the LA County Safer at Home order, this meeting is being conducted through WebEx and live streamed through YouTube, the city's website, and the Lawndale Community Cable Television. Now, for staff and city council members, I'm going to ask that you please state your name and your title prior to speaking, asking a question, or reporting out. If you do not need to speak, we ask that you would place yourself on mute so that we can prevent any interference or background noise, if you will. Voting will be done by a roll call vote. I'm going to ask that you please respond by saying yes, no, or extensions when the voice call is held. So at this point, we will begin our agenda. I'm going to ask for the city clerk to give us the call of the order. Brother, I'm going to bring this meeting to order at 6:31. I'm going to ask the city clerk to give us the roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Suarez.
Here.
Councilmember Osborne.
Present.
Councilmember Reed. Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Kearney. Councilmember Kearney.
Here.
Okay.
Mayor Pullen Miles.
Here.
All members are in attendance.
Thank you, Assistant City Clerk. The next item on our agenda is our ceremony. I'm going to ask Councilman McDaniel Reed to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Reed.
Yes. Knowing that we are remote, those of you that are at your homes, if you have a flag, please take a look at that. Please. Here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Reed. Now we're on item C on our agenda, our public safety report. Let's hear from our Captain Allen. Captain Allen available?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm here tonight to present the public safety report for March 31st through April 6th. As everyone knows, our city as well as the nation has been dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. Here in the city of Lawndale, I want to thank the citizens who have done an outstanding job of following the rules and regulations that Governor Newsom has set for our state. During the past 3 weeks, we have seen a decrease in calls for service by 22%. Crime in the city is also down, specifically burglaries and thefts, which are down 25% and 24% respectively. At the onset of this crisis, the department deployed extra deputies to patrol closed businesses and big box stores, including Target and the CVS's. These extra patrols have been at no cost to the city. I am pleased to state that there have been no notable instances of crime or disturbances occurring at these locations. Lastly, the station has not received any COVID-19 related calls from the community. The county is predicting the next 2 weeks to be very difficult and a turning point in battling this virus. So we continue to request that the citizens of Lawndale continue to follow the governor's directives, practice safe distancing, and stay inside your homes as much as possible. This concludes my report. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Captain, for that report. Are there any questions of the Captain's report?
No.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Flores, and I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I had a question regarding, is there a plan implemented for the homeless population? I know a few weeks back or a few meetings back, we've been having residents concerned about that. And with the whole situation right now, I just wanted to see if there was any plan in place.
Yeah, I mean, there is, the county has available housing for our homeless. So when there's a home situation that does come up, we do have people going out and actually contacting the homeless, and there are currently bed spaces throughout the county for the homeless right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Mayor Pro Tem Suarez, this was Kevin Chun. In addition to what the captain mentioned, we've heard from the county agency, LASA, that they are working with hotels throughout the county hotels and motels throughout the county to try to obtain contracts with them for space for homeless folks. So I know that they are actively contacting these hotels and motels, including ones here in Lawndale. I've heard that from one of our local hotels. So that's also happening.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions of the captain's report? I just have one observation going back to the homeless population. Captain, have you seen an increase of homeless populations in the city since the COVID crisis? It seemed like to me I've seen some new homeless in the city. I'm not sure if it's reflective of anything that the county is doing that's related to the COVID-19 crisis. Can you speak on that?
I don't know if there's been an increase. As you know, we did have a clean out at the channel. Obviously, they're in El Camino Village, so sometimes when people are moved, that happened about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, maybe even 3. Sometimes what happens is when that happens, sometimes you'll get a few of those folks that kind of moved in towards Lawndale area. There's kind of like a back and forth that goes forward. But I haven't seen a huge increase, no.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that report. There's no further questions of the captain's report. We want to thank the captain and all the deputies for your report and all the good work you guys do here in the city of Lawndale. Thank you, Captain.
No, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next item on our agenda is item D, oral communications. I'm going to ask the city clerk, assistant city clerk, have we received any oral communications? And if so, if he would read the oral communication.
Yes, no general public comments have been received.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. And with that, we will skip item E, comments from the council, and we will move to item F, which is our consent calendar. There's 4 items on the consent calendar. Is there any discussion on the consent calendar?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. What is the pleasure of this body concerning the consent calendar?
What? This is Dan Reed. I'd make a motion to approve.
This is Councilman Pat Kearney. I'll make a motion to second it.
So a motion has been made by Reed and seconded by Mr. Pat Kearney that we approve the consent calendar. Is there any discussion or debate on the motion?
No.
Seeing none, I'm going to ask the assistant city clerk to call the vote.
On a motion by Reed and a second by Kearney to approve consent calendar, Mayor Pro Tem Suarez,
Yes.
Councilmember Osborne,
Yes.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Kearney,
Yes.
Mayor Pullen Miles.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, sir. The next item on the agenda is G, under administration, item number 5, authorization application for the receipt of a local early action planning grant. Let's have the staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. This is Sean Moore, Director of Community Development. The item you have before you today is a request by staff to adopt a resolution authorizing staff to apply for an application and receipt of what is known as the Local Early Action Planning Grant Funding. The grant funding, staff was made aware of this NOFA, Notice of Funding Availability, for approximately $119 million. Obviously, we wouldn't be receiving that whole amount, but Lawndale's amount would be approximately $25,000 up to a maximum of $150,000 if awarded the grant. The LEAP grant is based on the population, but 20 to 59,000 people bracket population. Some of the eligibility requirements that make us give us an opportunity to apply for the grant are updates to general plans, community plans, and specific plans, which is what we are in the process of doing. Updates to zoning ordinances, procedural changing, CEQA streamlining, establishing pro-housing policies, and local improvements to permit processes that expedite planning review, which is what we would we envision that this grant would help us do if we receive the funding. Some of the other, we need to submit a budget, just like on the previous grant, the SB2 grant, including timelines, deliverables, sub-steps, and adoptions that demonstrate how the funds will be utilized for activities and other uses, such as the general plan update or the Hawthorne Boulevard specific plan update. Staff has looked at this grant as a great opportunity if we're awarded it. It'll help alleviate some of the costs on the general fund towards the update to the general plan and Hawthorne Boulevard specific plan, and we see it as a great opportunity. The deadline for the filing of the grant application is July 1st, 2020. Staff has found this application to be exempt from CEQA. There's no commission review. The city attorney has reviewed the resolution and approved it as the form. As I mentioned fiscally, this previously in my comments, that this will have a positive impact on the city's general fund if we are awarded the grant by ACD. This concludes staff's report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that report. Is there any questions on the staff report?
I have none.
Okay, seeing no questions, let's see, we received the public comment. Yes, sir, Mr. Pat Kearney?
I'll wait after public comments. If you haven't received anything, I'll comment on it afterwards.
Yes, let me ask the city clerk, have you received any public comments on this item?
No comments received for item 5.
Okay, Councilman Pat Kearney.
I read this article, and I think Director Moore should take the lead on this because his staff has been working on it. So it says city manager or designee. So I believe Director Moore should take the lead on this, and city manager should take a second on it because we're in Director Moore's forte.
Okay, I don't see any objection to that. Okay, anyone have any comment on that? I don't see any problem with that.
This is Jim, and if the city manager doesn't disagree, then I think that's fine.
Okay.
Kevin?
That would be fine.
Okay.
With that being the case, what is the pleasure of this body concerning item number 5? I'll entertain a motion.
To approve. This is Jim. I'll move to approve.
So I'll move to approve item number 5, and it was seconded by.
This Councilman.
That sound like Councilman Daniel Reed?
Mayor, can I ask a question for clarification?
Yes, ma'am.
The resolution right now says the city manager or designee. In light of Pat's comments, I need to ask Councilmember Osborne if he wanted to have his motion revise that reference to be to the community development director or designee.
If you insist. So moved with the recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will accept that amendment, Councilmember Reed. Councilmember Osborne, and it's still seconded by Councilmember Reed. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask the city clerk to give us the roll call on this item.
Item number 5, moved by Osborne, seconded by Reed, with the amendment of having the community development director or designee inserted. Mayor Pro Tem Suarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Osborne? Yes. Councilmember Reed?
Yes.
Councilmember Kearney?
Yes.
Mayor Pullen Miles?
Yes.
Motion approved 5-0.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is item number 6. This is the urgency ordinance prohibiting the eviction during the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's have a staff report.
Mr. Mayor, I'm presenting this item.
Yes, ma'am.
On March 4th, 2020, the governor declared the existence of a state of emergency for the entire state due to the threat of the novel coronavirus, now known as COVID-19. That same day, the county declared the existence of a local emergency. On March 16th, the county started issuing orders limiting the size of events and requiring social distancing. Also that day, the city proclaimed a local emergency. The following day, the governor issued an executive order authorizing cities to limit evictions within its jurisdiction through May 31st, unless that order is extended. On March 19th, the governor issued another executive order requiring people in the state to stay at home other than to obtain food or to go to essential services. This is as a result of the public health emergency, and this means that many residents, both commercial and residential in the city, are now experiencing sudden and unexpected losses of income. On March 27th, the governor issued a further executive order prohibiting the eviction through May 31st of residential tenants unable to pay rent because of an income loss because of COVID-19. It's our understanding as of the day of the staff report being submitted that at least 30 other cities and counties, including the city of Los Angeles, have passed eviction bans based on loss of income due to COVID-19. Under the proposed urgency ordinance that's in front of the council tonight, which if adopted would be effective immediately, during this COVID-19 emergency, if a residential or commercial tenant within the city fails to pay rent that was due on or after the day the city declared the local emergency, which was March 16th, then the landlord cannot seek to evict the tenant. This applies to both no-fault evictions, unless it's a no-fault eviction that's needed for the health and safety of other tenants, neighbors, or the landlord, or to an eviction that would be because the tenant has not paid rent when the tenant is not paying rent because of financial impacts related to COVID-19. The tenant must give the landlord notice of their inability to pay within 30 days after the rent is due. Nothing in this ordinance would relieve the tenant of the liability for the unpaid rent, which the landlord can seek after the expiration of the local emergency. The ordinance also requires the tenants to catch up with their back due rent within 6 months of the expiration of the local emergency. This ordinance would also prohibit the landlord from charging late fees and penalties for someone who is subject to this ordinance and not paying rent because of a loss of income due to COVID-19. So to be clear, this moratorium does not relieve tenants of their obligation to pay rent. It just suspends the landlord's ability to move forward with an eviction lawsuit at this time. So further, what's not in the report because it just came out today, the Judicial Council issued new rules for the courts as in anticipation of reopening the courts. And there are specific rules about evictions and foreclosure actions. Specific to evictions, which is what we're talking about here, the court said that it will not issue a new summons on a complaint for unlawful detainer, which is an eviction action, unless it is necessary to protect the public health and safety. This rule will be in effect for 90 days after the governor declares an end of the emergency or until the rule has been revised or eliminated by the Judicial Council. With that, I will take any questions anyone has on the report or the urgency ordinance before you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that report. Is there any questions on the staff report on this item?
No.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Damn, no questions.
Yeah, okay. First of all, I just want to thank the city attorney for that report and for this urgency ordinance. I'm glad to see this is on the agenda, that it will provide relief not only for our residents, but also for our commercial tenants as well, signalizing that we are all in this together. And I think this is exactly what the governor had envisioned, and this is actually provides more protection than what the governor's executive order provided, because it was kind of vague. And so I think it's still important that local communities adopt their own version of eviction protection. So I'm glad to see that this is on the agenda. And with that, I'll take any questions or any comments from the rest of the council if there's any.
Mayor, Councilman Kearney.
Councilman Kearney.
If there's no other questions or discussions, I go with staff recommendations to adopt urgency ordinance 1170-20.
Okay, the motion's been made by Councilman Pat Kearney and I will
I'm sorry to
second.
interrupt. Nate.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt there. We do have a public comment on this item.
We have a public comment. Yes, sir. Let's do that public comment before we entertain the motion.
Sure, I'll go ahead and read it really quickly. This is from Sean Waxman, Waxman's Gym, 15701 Condon Avenue. Dear Town Council, as a resident and owner of a local business who has been affected by the COVID-19 business closure and stay-at-home orders, I support and encourage the Council to vote in favor of passing Urgency Ordinance 1170-20 without change. Without the out protection from eviction and additional 6-month rent payback period, I will have an extremely difficult time staying in business. I beg you to help protect the small businesses of Lawndale. We need your help. Thank you for your consideration. That is the
Okay.
end.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Assistant City Clerk, for those comments. Are there
This is Mayor
anything new to
Pro-
add yet? Yes, sir. Yes,
This
ma'am.
is Mayor Pro Tem Suarez, and I did have one comment. Although I know we are extending, giving tenants 30 days, I think it would be helpful for them to notify their landlords as soon as possible, should they not be able to make the rent, just as a courtesy.
True.
I would agree with that. Yeah, as soon as possible, or within 30 days. Yes, it's within 30 days. So that as soon as possible would fall within the 30 days, or should fall within the 30 days. Okay. Okay, unless there's any further discussion on this item, I'm not going to take up the motion that was made by Pat Kearney that we approve item number 6 and seconded by Pullman Miles. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Mayor, should I read the title?
Yes, ma'am.
This is urgency ordinance number 1170-20, an urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lawndale, California, prohibiting residential and commercial tenant evictions related to the COVID-19 pandemic and exemption from CEQA. Thank you.
Okay, with that, would the council please vote on item number 6?
Okay, on a motion by Kearney and a second by Mayor Pullman Miles on item 6, Mayor Pro Tem Suarez,
Yes.
Councilmember Osborne,
Yes.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Kearney,
Yes.
Mayor Pullman Miles.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, sir. Next item, item number 7, is the further modifications to the city's operations as a related issues due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's have a staff report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. This is Kevin Chun, City Manager. I will have this report. As you know, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has affected our country, the City of Lawndale has also experienced many of its impacts. And as a result, the city has made operational modifications beginning on March 16th and over the last couple of weeks. And with this report, we will have four other additional recommendations for the council to consider, plus one other recommendation, which is not part of this report, but was something that I emailed you earlier today, and we can discuss that further on in this report. But again, there are there are now 5 recommendations, and if you'd like, Mr. Mayor, we can take these one at a time, or I can just walk through all of these first, and then you can consider them separately.
Let's take them one at a time briefly.
Okay, very good. Thank you. The first one is regarding parking enforcement. As you'll recall, at your last meeting on March 16th, the council decided to keep parking enforcement for street sweeping as normal. However, after hearing concerns from residents and after I heard from the council members regarding their thoughts on the situation, I made a decision to change the parking enforcement to suspend parking enforcement for street sweeping until further notice. And this was done to help the council. Once it was clear to me that the council wanted to change, it was a decision to help the council immediately provide parking enforcement relief to the community. So again, because this was a decision made by the council on March 16th, after the staff decision was made, this item is intended for the council to ratify that staff decision.
Okay, so you're looking for ratification of the parking enforcement element, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any discussion on that element of the report from the council?
No.
I support it. I mean, we can just have discussion on all of the items separately, and then we can take one motion to ratify all of them.
Okay. And Mr. Mayor, there was one public comment regarding this particular part of the report.
Okay, let's hear that public comment.
Yes, public comment received by Randall Abram, Lawndale resident. At the March 16, 2020 City Council meeting, the council made the mistake of deciding to continue enforcing street sweeping parking ticketing. Earlier that day, Mayor Garcetti had the foresight to discontinue parking enforcement ticketing on street sweeping as, quote, there is no need to worry about the financial cost of keeping your car at home while you practice safe social distancing. You help our city flatten the curve, unquote. After numerous calls later that week, the city wisely decided that ticketing on street sweeping was not the best interest of its residents. As so many people are following the governor's direction to stay at home in Lawndale, street parking is at a premium. Requiring people to do the weekly parking shuffle is virtually impossible as there is no place to relocate a vehicle. In addition, demanding people leave their home, walk to their car, and drive up and down the street to move cars is not in the spirit of stay-at-home requirements. If you do find parking, it might require you to walk or block or two back home. Are there a few more leaves on the street if vehicles are not moved for street sweeping? Perhaps. But that is the least of our concerns in these difficult times. I applaud the City of Lawndale's action to stop ticketing on street sweeping days and ask that the City Council ratify this decision. End of comment.
Okay, thank you for those public comments. Is there any discussion on this element of the report concerning the parking enforcement? If not, we can go to the next section.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next part of the report is regarding public events. And again, as you recall, at your March 16th meeting, the council chose to cancel most events in April, but not the community bike ride or youth day parade and spring extravaganza. At the time, the council believed that with more than a month to go before that event, that it was a better decision to wait and see how things go before making the formal decision to cancel that event. So since that last city council meeting, obviously there's been a lot happening, a lot of developments regarding COVID-19, particularly with the county and state stay-at-home orders that were issued, the fact that Lawndale elementary schools have been canceled for the rest of the academic year. Lawndale high schools will be out of school until at least May. The Sheriff's Department will not be able to provide services for public events until after the end of the month. And also, at this point at least, it doesn't appear that the county will be issuing any permits for the use of Alondra Park, which is needed for that public event. So based on that, unfortunately, staff does recommend that the City Council formally take action to cancel the community bike ride and youth day parade / spring extravaganza.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there any discussion on the public events element of the report?
This is Mayor Pro Tem Flores, and I have a few comments.
Yes, ma'am.
The way that this is looking, I'm wondering if we should also, at the next meeting, take into account events that we have for the rest of the year on the timeline. Just from a financial standpoint, we don't know what situation we're going to be in as a city, and so it's something that we want to take a look at our budget. And I know the next point should also bring in more perspective as well. So if we could just kind of add them to the list, the cost of all those events for our upcoming meeting.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, matter of fact, they have in the report that at some point we will consider Memorial Day ceremony as well as the health and safety and pet fair, which is on June 6th, whether or not to hold those two events. You know, that's as well, but we'll wait and see on those. Is that what you're referring to?
I'm thinking we should look at the rest of the year. We don't know how long this is going to last. It could last well through the summer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Any more discussion on the public event portion?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's proceed with the financial condition element. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Regarding financial condition, the current level of city operation and the staff for our operations are based on revenue and expenditure projections based on the end of the last fiscal year. With COVID-19 impacts to our businesses and our local economy, we're projecting some amount of decrease in city revenues, which means we'll have to re-examine our expenditures for the rest of this year and perhaps into the next budget year. So in doing so, staff requests the formation of a budget subcommittee to work with staff in looking at our revenues and our expenditures and developing recommendations for the City Council.
Okay. Thank you for that portion of the report, financial conditions. And one of the elements of this portion calls for the creation of a subcommittee, a budget subcommittee by the council. I do know Councilmember Pat Kearney is interested in serving on that committee should we decide to form such. Is there anyone else that may be interested in serving on the committee, not to exceed 2 members?
This is Dan Reed. I wouldn't mind being on that committee.
All right. So, yeah. So I put Kearney and Reed. Okay. Kearney and Reed. No. Okay. Are there any other discussion on the financial condition portion?
Nope.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Suarez, and I do have one comment.
Yes,
there's been recently some articles about CalPERS losing billions of dollars. So it's also to make sure that that's on the discussion for the Finance Committee and how that'll impact us.
Okay, we'll do, and we will add Councilmember Pat Kearney and Councilmember Daniel Reed as the members of the subcommittee. Okay, let's hear about the transit. Yeah, let's hear about the transit occupancy tax issue.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you again. Before we move on to that, this is the time I wanted to bring up that additional item that I mentioned we were looking for a recommendation from the City Council on. I had emailed the council earlier today an email and a letter from Marcel Rodarte with the California Contract Cities Association. The association has made a request to the County Board of Supervisors for a deferral of rate increases from the Sheriff's Department for the next at least for the next 2 years, based on the impacts to local governments with revenues and its finances, and to help local governments in that respect. This is something that staff would support because it would be a significant relief to our budget, considering the increase from year to year in the sheriff's contract is about $300,000 or more. So not having to bear that additional rate increase cost would be a tremendous help for us and other cities. So if the City Council agrees with this measure taken up by the California Contract Cities Association, I can have a letter for the mayor to sign on this tomorrow.
Okay, very good. Are there any thoughts on that item on the contract city request that there's a referral of the sheriff's department contract increase, rate increase?
No objection. No objection.
No objection at all. This is Dan Reed.
No objection here.
Mr. Mayor,
Mayor.
this is Council Attorney.
Yes, sir, Councilman Attorney.
Kevin, is this $300,000 just for the first year, correct? And then it goes up proportionally each year.
That is correct. So our contract with the sheriff's department is roughly $6 million.
Right.
And each year, the increase could be between 3.5% to 5.5%. So based on that, we could be looking at, like I said, up to about $300,000 or just over $300,000 increases.
Okay, no further questions.
Okay, so I'm looking at the staff report. That seems like that's all of the recommendations on the report.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to discuss the TOT portion?
Yes, I'm sorry. Say that again for me.
Would you like me to go TOT portion at this point?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you again. So regarding the transient occupancy tax, also known as TOT, this is one of the revenue sources that would be that has been significantly impacted by the COVID-19 situation. We've already been approached by one hotel in Lawndale that's asked for some relief for its quarterly TOT payment. As I mentioned in the staff report, the Lawndale Municipal Code, it currently does not allow for any type of relief for TOT payments except for the allowance of a waiver for penalties and interests for late payment of TOT. So at this time, staff, considering our budget situation and our financial situation, the fact that it's unclear where we're going to be at the end of this fiscal year or how our next budget will look, at this time, staff does not recommend any further changes to our TOT collection beyond what is called for in the Lawndale Municipal Code. So at this time, we are looking for direction from the City Council if you would like to do more than what the municipal code will allow, or if you would like to simply continue on with all that's allowed for now in the municipal code.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any discussions on the
Robert?
The TOT? Yes, sir.
Robert, this is Jim. I got a quick question. Kevin, did I hear you correctly? One of the suggestions was sort of like a extension.
Yes, that's correct. So in the municipal code, hotels can request a waiver of penalties and interest for late payment of their TOT.
I got that.
Yeah, it doesn't allow.
My specific question is, has staff recommended a time for that extension, a length of time on that extension?
Yes. So from my read of the municipal code, it doesn't specify how late the payment could be.
Right.
If I could recommend, I would recommend no later than 1 quarter or perhaps sooner than that.
Okay.
And that would have to be something that the city council would have to decide on. At this point, we haven't received a request for a waiver yet, although I'm expecting one soon. And if and when it does come, that'll be brought back for the city council to consider. And at that time, I would have asked the city council if, how long would you allow for the repayment? Would it be, 1 month late, 2 months late, 1 quarter late? But that would be something for the city council to consider.
Well, we know that this crisis is going through this month, quite possibly the next. If I just heard you say your recommendation was a quarter, so we're talking 3 months?
Well, I would say no more than a quarter, but again.
No more than a quarter. Okay. Well, that sounds like a reasonable accommodation, at least this early in the game.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Suarez.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh. And I like the direction that Councilmember Osborne's going. This is ongoing. We really don't know if there's anything we can do to, mitigate or help out. I honestly think it's as long as it's not going to, I don't think it's going to, deplete our funds or anything, so I like that direction.
Thank you for those comments. I'm kind of wondering. I think a quarter sounds reasonable, but I'm not sure what our financial conditions really are in the long run for this year. I'm thinking whether or not this would be something that the subcommittee should at least look at. Because what I would be reluctant to do is to authorize it, even though it's just a quarter, and then to find that it does have an adverse effect on our budget in terms of we know we have some staff that we're going to have to be looking at as to how we're going to be able to continue to pay those staff, and can we continue to pay our staff and not receive the revenue, even though it's just a quarter? I don't know the answer to that. And then, as you said earlier in your report, each operator can come individually for a waiver, at this point, and we would have already approved a waiver. It sounds like, from this, unless this is just in principle, and you wait for the actual waiver to come. That would be kind of my concern.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
How much we're talking about when we're talking about 1 quarter? What kind of dollar amount we're talking about?
May I interject? This is Marla Pendleton, Finance Director.
Yes, ma'am, the Finance Director.
Okay, our TOT last year brought in $705,000. This year we brought in, so far to date, about $350,000. I have already projected what I anticipate for this year with COVID-19 because the hotels are not being occupied at all. We'll have close to a $300,000 loss or shortage in our budget related to TOT alone. This particular hotel brings in 37% of our revenue. They're one of our largest hotels. And as you know, it's a tax, so the money's already been collected and they're holding on to it. So basically, they're asking to use the money for operational use. And if they continue to use it to pay their employees, if they continue to use it and not have people stay at the hotels, then they may not have the money to pay us at a later date because it is a tax. So we are looking at, for that particular hotel, for the third quarter, they usually pay us around $60,000, and we're looking at 2/3 of it would probably be what they're holding right now. The last month, March, they probably got close to nothing. So we're probably looking at maybe $45,000 for this particular quarter.
Okay, 45,000. Okay. Okay. Thank you for that information.
Mr. Mayor, the concern that you brought up is also a reason why that was not a recommendation that staff had at this point for you. It is unclear, what our revenue projections are going to be. That is something that Marla is working on currently, and hopefully over the next, weeks, we will have a better understanding of what our current fiscal year projections look like, revised projections look like, because of everything that's going on. And at that point, we might be able to give some better recommendations. But we're just not ready to do that right now.
So it sounds like this other question. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Who's calling?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, not a question, but more of a comment. Obviously, we know we're 30 days into this. We expect another 30. I do believe it's too early, and as was brought up, this is a tax that's collected, so it would have to be a deferral only, not a forgiveness. And we'll just have to take it as it goes. But my initial thoughts on the matter is 60 days. I think a quarter may be too far, but we'll just have to take that as it comes and see how this actually affects the local economy.
Right.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, Mr. Mayor and council members, for each request that comes in, if it does come in, you will still have a chance to consider and approve it or not. So the municipal code doesn't just allow for the waiver; it allows for it, but with your approval.
Okay, that was going to be my question. So we have an opportunity to entertain the actual waiver application as they come in.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
This
sir.
Councilman Kearney?
Mr. Kearney, please proceed.
I have a question for our city attorney. On this, these packages this county, state, and federal government are giving to small businesses, to hotels, are they in that same range, or is it separate small businesses?
The hotels, if they have less than 500 employees at that location, they would be eligible to apply for the PPP loan.
So I would suggest we leave it the way it's written right now and do it case by case. If they can get a small business loan, let them get that first before we start taking away money from our city.
Okay, thank you for that, Councilmember Pat Kearney. Are there any other discussions on this item, the TOT item?
This is Mayor Pro Tem Suarez, and
Yes, ma'am.
I'm still open to entertaining a deferment case by case. If they're not making revenue, it's not going to help us in the end if they're not able to sustain as a business. So I think we can revisit case by case, but I'm okay with deferring payments.
Yeah, why else was this brought up if it's not for some future consideration? But you don't want to see the businesses go under completely.
Yes, I would agree. Okay.
So Kevin, this was just an FYI?
Well, because we have to entertain each application separately anyway. So they can make the application and then we can make a final determination once the application is the request for the deferment is made.
Right. So just for clarification, Mr. Mayor and council members, staff's request at this time is to see if the council wanted to simply continue on with what the municipal code allows, or if it would like to go beyond what the municipal code currently allows.
You mean at a later date?
Well, if you'd like to give direction to staff now regarding going beyond what the municipal code allows, you could, give us that direction now. Or again, if you want to just do only what the municipal code currently allows, we'll just take that direction and then just continue on without any changes.
Councilman Kearney here?
Yes, Pat Kearney.
I think we leave it the way it is right now written and do it case by case. Let's not change any of our codes right now And let's see if we have a hotel come in within the next month and do a case by case.
Yeah, because that's exactly what the code allows now. So, okay.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is Dan. I don't believe we need to make a change at this moment either.
Yep, I'm okay with that. Oh, thank you, Mr. Reed.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Suarez. I have a quick question. So it's case by case. Then say this hotel in particular applies for the waiver, and they ask, and they say okay, and then are we allowed to give them the 2 months to pay back at that time? Does our code allow for it?
Yes. So, Mayor Pro Tem Suarez, at that point, when you consider, if and when you consider a request for a waiver, at that time, I would ask for the council's thoughts regarding when it expected the repayment. Because, like I mentioned, I don't believe right now the municipal code specifies when repayment would have to be made if a waiver was granted.
So then it would come back to the whole council for discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay with leaving it the same because we would have the opportunity to entertain the request for the waiver, and if we desire to give a waiver for deferment, we also could set at that time the payback date, whether it be 2 months, a quarter, a month, or whatever it happens to be, without necessarily changing the what's provided for in the code at this time. Is there any other discussion on that portion, the TOT?
I mean, I'm still in favor of if we were to extend, allow for extensions, but majority, we can vote on that.
Okay, so that's the TOT section. Anyone have anything else to add on the TOT?
No, I agree with Bernadette.
Okay.
My concern is just that if we're waiting for each meeting, depending on the situation of the business, you know, how much it's impacting them, because this is unprecedented times, and it's just you know, each one is it's correct. We can look at it case by case, but at the rate that, you know, the situation is developing and the economy and all that, I just think we should have more flexibility.
Yeah. I'd say that an extension is better than a closure. And you may have that coming.
Yeah.
No, and
well, I don't
you know,
mind
that's what we're saying. Extension-wise, I have no issues with that. I just don't think we are necessarily needing to set a time tonight. You know, we don't know. This could be blown over by the end of the month. We just don't know.
Yeah, I don't have any problem necessarily with the extension. My concern is to automatically give an extension to every operator instead of on an individual basis.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's my main concern.
I hear you.
Can I make one more comment? This
Yes,
is Marla
ma'am.
Pendleton, the finance director. As far as it accruing interest and penalties, the tax is not due till the end of April at this point. So penalties and interest would accrue from May 1st until the date it's paid. So right now it's not late, and right now we don't know how much penalties or interest that would be accrued to dismiss. So they do have the right to be late. The way the code reads, they would owe penalties and interest, at which time council can dismiss it if that is their desire.
Okay, so you're saying if they're late on their remitting the TOT, which would usually incur penalties and interest, the council can still waive the penalty and interest.
Correct, because we know what you're waiving.
Okay. Well, that would make sense because, like you said, we would at least know at that point what we're waiving. Right now, we kind of don't.
It's a little premature right now. They're asking for it. It's not even due till the end of the month. So they're asking up front for basically approval to be late.
Got it.
Okay. Okay. Any other discussion on this item? This is complicated one. I've seen some pros and cons, but we definitely want to assist the business as much as we can. Okay, I think that's the last item on your report.
That's correct.
It sounds like we should maybe let's go ahead and affirm or take action on the other items, and then maybe we'll do the transit the TOT separate last. It seems like we might have some more discussion on this item.
The DOT thing's coming. I mean, the TOT thing's coming back anyway, right? That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yes.
So that makes sense then.
Yeah, that becomes back anyway.
How is it being? Sorry, this is Mayor Pro Tem Suarez. So it's being handled case by case. Is it at each meeting we're going to be presented with the applications and make the decision?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Suarez, it would depend on, if a waiver request comes in from any of our hotels. So, and again, at this point, we haven't received a request, although I think we're expecting one.
Which would come at our next
Yes, I have informed the particular hotel that if they intended to submit a waiver request, they should do it in time for the next meeting so that, they can have the council consider it in April before they're late in May.
Okay.
That sounds like that would be actually more timely because, like the finance director said, the tax is not even due at this point.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Thank you, madam. Okay, with that, unless there's some objections and you want to parcel these out, let's ratify all of the 5 requested items in the agenda.
So, Robert, you're looking for a motion on the remaining?
Well, not on the remaining, but the 5 recommendations, the 5 staff recommendations, ratification of the
so it'll be included in it with, okay. That's not to be clear. I'll make the motion then.
This is Councilman Cornell, second.
Okay, I know I have Osborne as a first. Who wants to second it?
Ladies first.
Ladies first. Okay, ladies first. You heard the ladies. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Suarez has seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none with this, let's have the roll call.
Okay, on a motion by Councilmember Osborne and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Suarez on item 7A through D, added section E. Mayor Pro Tem Suarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Osborne?
Yes.
Councilmember Reed?
Yes.
Councilmember Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Pullen Miles?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, sir. Let's hear from the city manager. City manager report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. No further items at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We're now on item 8, items from the council, mayor and council members. Let's see, let's start with Councilmember James Osborne. Do you have anything you want to report?
Thank you, Robert. No, nothing to report other than to say everybody stay safe. And I want to thank staff for making this meeting work. We got through it okay, considering it set a precedent. First time we ever did this. So that's all I got. Or hear you next time.
Yes, thank you. Councilman Peckern.
I just want to say, thank you for everybody, the staff putting this on, and stay safe and have a happy Easter as best as you can.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Suarez.
I have nothing to report, and same here. Just wishing everybody, sending wishful, well wishes, and stay safe. And during this time, just remember that we're all going through it together, and we'll get through this.
Thank you, Madam. I'm also wishing and praying everyone will have good health, and that they stay safe as well, and that we definitely will get through this as a Lawndale family, as a state, and as a nation, and that we just all look out for each other during this period of time in our nation's history. So with that, we do have...
Mayor?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I think
Mr.
you
Mayor?
forgot Councilman Reed.
Daniel Reed.
Yes, sir. Here I am. So no meetings to report, but I'm very happy that the technology is working. Being in technology sector, I've been helping multiple companies get their remote staff going. So congratulations, staff. This went well. Thank you very much. Everyone stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, with that, we do have 2 closed sessions tonight. I'm going to ask the city attorney to read the closed session rules.
The City Council will meet in closed session on 2 items. The first is a matter of anticipated litigation as agendized as item J9. The second is regarding a matter of existing litigation as agendized as item J10. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will go into closed session.
And Mr. Mayor, I'll just also ask that staff members, at this point, they can drop off the WebEx call as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay, we have returned from closed session. I'm going to ask the city attorney to give the report of the closed session. Madam City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council met in closed session on 2 items. The first was a matter of anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4. The council unanimously voted to join a class action lawsuit against Southern California Edison related to collection methodology for utility users tax. And the second item regarding existing litigation involving the WIA/CTIA petition for rulemaking in front of the FCC. The council met pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. In this item, the council unanimously authorized joining the opposition to new ex parte applications filed by Crown Castle and WIA. Thank you.
Okay, Madam City Attorney, thank you for that closed session report. It is now 7:55, and we will adjourn this meeting. The next regular scheduled meeting of Lawndale City Council will be held at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, April the 20th, 2020. We are adjourned at 7:54. This meeting is adjourned.